Gentle reminder, although we are online for this tribute, we ask that the same reverence be paid in the comment section. This is Alexander's church. Let your comments be directed to Alexander and to our family with love. Only love. Thank you. Thank you for Thank you for joining our family as we celebrate the life of Alexander James Lemmer. We will wait a few minutes before we begin. 2020 has changed all of our lives. We would have preferred to have all of us together in person for this event. However, we find it ironically fitting that Alexander be celebrated online. His digital footprint was as large as the shoes he walked up on this earth in. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this tribute. If we're all ready, let's take a deep breath and begin with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father and mothers, we lift up the spirit of Alexander to you, and we are grateful for the gift that he was to all of our lives. We are grateful for the smile that he gave every passing person. We're grateful for that contagious laugh, the swagger with which he walked. We thank you for his presence for 22 beautiful years upon this earth. And we know, as Alexander believed, he'd be greeted in your arms, see his little brother, get to check out all the people he didn't get to meet before, freshen up a bit, and come back to do it all over again. So, Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mothers, we lift Alexander to you, and we let his spirit be yours. We let the universe take hold of every bit of stardust he is made of, and we bless his journey, and we honor his path. We honor his path without choice. Rumi said, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field, and I'll meet you there. Alexander spoke in tongues. To most people who knew him, he was eloquent and articulate and smart. And he read well beyond what you would expect of him. Well, when he shared that wisdom with people, it wasn't always greeted with anything more than a laugh, which is okay. Because this beautiful, beautiful man throughout his life brought smiles and laughter. And he was okay letting it just roll off. That's how he appeared to absolutely everybody in his life. So, loves, as we gather together in honor of Alexander James Lemmer, at this time, right now, we ask that you take a moment of silence with us in his honor. Alexander was worth taking a breath for. To celebrate and properly honor Alexander's life, you have to look at this kid from the time he was born. There was this amazing sunbeam of a child who, on a regular basis, cracked this gorgeous smile. Now, throughout his life, we know who his best friends were. There were a couple of them. His big brother Anson, who from the moment he was born always had him by the hand, all the way until the end. Alexander loved being a brother. He was a treasured goofball. You could count on him for pretty much any kind of shenanigans that would come along. Then, when he became a big brother, the game changed. Alexander became a middle child. That part of it was always pretty interesting. You look at him throughout his life, and he was always the daredevil, always. His Instagram, oof, something to take a mom's breath away sometimes. I would see his art. I appreciated it. I appreciated him. I would see him skating. That was art too. I couldn't fly. Most anybody I know, just doesn't have that same athletic ability that he carried with him. This kid was seriously one of the most fearless when it came to just doing things his way. It's funny because as he grew, he didn't keep the same tidiness, but he kept the same spirit. Recently, Alexander started a Twitch account so that he could bring some electronic joy to the world. We're finding out as a family that he brought so much joy across the globe that he touched people's lives whom he never got to meet. He was helpful to people that never got to say thank you. But we get to say thank you. We get to take our time. We get to love on him and speak his name and share with the world who he was to us, who he is to us. Our ancestors have taken him into their arms with love and what we never expected for this child. We honor his path. We honor every single bit of it. All right, deep breath. Now exhale and laugh, please. How lucky are we to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard? And this is hard. This is a celebration of Alexander, but this is hard. And it's hard for so many reasons. It's hard because this right here, this vibrant, beautiful soul of a person who touched our lives each and every day, that's what makes it so tough. Knowing what we all know about Alexander, he was beyond his years, he was beyond his words, he was beyond the wisdom that he shared with people. and he took many adventures. Alexander was born on September 3rd, 1998, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And he grew up festing. He grew up at the festivals and the parks and listening to music and learning to polka. And he always was hand in hand with his brother. Alexander was a gift. He was shy. He was very, very shy at first growing up. He was shy enough that when he finally let himself kind of push beyond those boundaries, our good friend Bobby, our good friend Bobby was hosting a play for the summertime, and Alexander joined the play because his brother Anson was in it. And the two of them rocked their parts. They were amazing. It was so incredible to see Bobby and Abby and just even Lauren, this whole group of amazing kids put on this play. He came out of his shell a little bit more in high school, and you could find him playing tuba, although he lived the typical band geek life where he listened to obscure music and got picked on by the jocks. Fast forward a bit from Minnesota to Colorado, and he found a home amongst some very, very dear kindred spirits. There were parts of his heart in Minnesota. There are many across the globe. Here in Colorado, he found acceptance and love amongst his band crew and the rest of his friends from school. You could find him at the skate park, sometimes with a can of spray paint, others mostly with a skateboard. The one time I've ever dealt as a mother with a broken bone from any of my children, it was with Alexander. And it was a skating incident. And this kid went and baled hay all afternoon up on Missouri Heights, finished up his chores, came on home and said, Mom, my wrist hurts. A couple hours later, he is bandaged up and has a cast, and we learned the experience of Alexander and broken bones. He was fearless. As soon as that cast came off, that kid was back on his skateboard. He didn't play by the rules. He never played by the rules. And that's okay because that's our Alexander. Again, how lucky are we to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard? This something is sacred. As he became a young man, the road was bumpy. It may have been bumpier for others and smoother for some, but Alexander attempted to hide with this mask of poetic confidence and a giving spirit that allowed him to reach out to other people who were in need, to try to fix them and help them and be there for them when he may have needed that himself the most. There are no regrets when talking about Alexander. None, not allowed. This was a vibrant spirit whose energy goes far beyond you and far beyond me and far beyond our ancestors. He's always been far out there, man. And I say that with every bit of love and compassion and kindness and tenderness and extreme pride in my son for who he is as a person, his soul. His spirit was one that when Alexander finally fell into a career, it was as a United States postal carrier. And he loved his job. Now, he wore Doc Martens for a minute. So, of course, he did the typical complaining about his feet after that. But once he had switched to a pair of more comfortable shoes, his reputation was one of waving at neighbors, saying hello to pretty much everybody, flashing that peace sign. And I've heard rumor from a very good source that he's come back to the post office with flowers in his hair. Now, Alexander was always out of time. From his pointy shoes that required more polish than you could imagine, to his open chest paisley shirts and those flowers in his hair. He'd actually stop to smell those flowers. This was a person who his entire life saw the beauty in graffiti, under bridges and under expressways, in broken old vehicles in the middle of a field that had overgrown with trees and growth. Alexander saw art in places that people saw garbage. Alexander saw art in places where people looked and said, nah, I don't see what you see. And he said, that's okay. Now, we're here to celebrate his life. So that swagger and that confidence and that kindness and everything that came across in Alexander's life, he paid a price for. His sensitive spirit, Alexander's soul, from the moment he came onto this planet, was one of overstimulation, and I want to do it all. And he touched my heart as a mother because of that. He's influenced me every single day to take the time and do what I'm supposed to do and follow through with my word, to be kind to strangers, to smile even when I'm wearing a mask and nobody can see me smiling. Smile anyway. Those are the types of things that he'd say because he knew you never knew when somebody was struggling or what someone was going through outside of your periphery. And his spirit was one that taught us to reach out in kindness and to hold on to kindness. This kid had dreams. He was always a wild child. Always. So take a deep breath again and exhale and laugh. Because we're talking about the young man who got on a Greyhound bus, texted everyone he was leaving Colorado, and then turned off his phone. I picked him up a few months later in Venice Beach. Some life lessons tucked into his back pocket, and a wanderlust like no other. And it was beautiful and scary. Alexander was still growing. Alexander was still finding himself and learning who he was as a person. We honor his path, but we also learn from it. Like a lesson tucked into our back pocket, this is one we shall never, ever forget. This is one that's been etched in our soul. That the most beautiful, radiant, most wonderful, amazing smile hides pain behind it. Our family feels surrounded by love with every word, with every breath, with every person who's checked in. We lift and honor that same spirit of giving with Alexander that you all reach out to us with. And it's given us pause to consider the outpouring of love for this spirit. So much love, so many stories, beautiful, beautiful experiences that were shared amongst friends and lovers and caretakers and caregivers, even the acquaintances that passed Alexander in the digital world shared a connection with him that was lasting. And as we gather tonight in honor of Alexander, we consider all of the ways that his example have become that lesson tucked in our back pocket. Alexander's life will never, ever be in vain. There is a sacredness to his spirit, and every beautiful character trait that made him who he was to each of us individually. That sacredness is something that each and every one of us can hold on to. And in his honor, that is what we deserve. We have this legacy of love from him. We do. We carry it. It's ours. He gifted it to us. So don't squander it. Don't squander time. Don't squander your experiences. Don't squander your love. Tell people you love them. Wave at them. Smile at them. Tell your brothers and your sisters what they mean to you right now while they're here. Alexander was all of that. He was every bit of spontaneous and loyal and loving and giving and goofy all at the same time. Alexander changed my world. He's changed the world of his brothers. I'm going to take a moment to ask you to please continue to lift Anson and Avery in your deepest thoughts and deepest prayers and hold them tight. There is a connection amongst brothers in the power of three. That sacredness carries over throughout lifetimes. So we come together and we lift Anson and we lift Avery in the sacredness of their being, that they heal and carry their grief as love to the very best of their abilities. Alexander goofed off a lot, but he was also super serious about a lot of things. He carried a reverence for this earth that you didn't see in a 22-year-old. Not usually. This was a tree hugging, plant loving, earth walking, river meditating, beautiful human being who spent his time upon this earth trying to make a very loud impression on as many people as he possibly could. That impression hasn't been lost on us. That impression will never, ever be lost on us. When you consider who Alexander was as a person, this right here, this is Alex. This is love. He was capable of sharing that love, unspoiled, uninvited. He was capable of giving that love to people who didn't even realize that they needed it from him at the moment. I recognized that in him. Many of us did. We felt and saw and experienced Alexander from different perspectives. And as a mother, of course, mine's going to be biased completely because he is my everything, my boy, my middle baby. All joking aside, he's my light. My children are my light. Alexander has joined his brother Aiden, who's been gone 19 years ago this year. Our family never thought that we would ever experience the grief of losing a child, let alone losing a child twice. There's a reverence for life that we carry with this immense loss. We are changed. There's the before, and then there is now, the after. And in this after, Though we're just flesh and bone, ours is the endurance and strength of stone. We are carrying on his legacy of love with all of our might. And on the days that it's the hardest, we'll light one of these candles. We'll cup a stone in our hand and have a conversation with our kid, with our brother, with our friend. When we say our prayers, we'll include one for peace for every person around us. In your prayers and including Alexander, we pray to take the pain of what must be for now endured, and that we may have the strength to go on with his love and his legacy with grace and compassion and hope. How lucky are we to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard? Never imagined in a million years. Didn't consider I'd only get 22 years or that we would only get 22 years with Alexander. And weeping and aching, we long to honor his passing and we long to honor his life. And searching everywhere, we found only one answer. Only one. Honor yourselves. Become all that you are. Become all that you are. Become all that you are. And carry inside of you the beauty that is Alexander. The beauty that will always be Alexander. Take the time to invest in yourself and to honor yourself. Be yourself without any inhibition. You want to be ridiculous? Be ridiculous. You know from his last social media posts, it was just another day for Alexander. But it wasn't just another day. On October 8th, 2020, Alexander James Lemmer had a really, really bad day and made a permanent choice based on some really temporary feelings. I'm not trying to be cliche. There are no words that are adequate enough for the anguish and pain and misery that my heart as a mother feels right now without Alexander here in my presence in my life. His very last Instagram post, Alexander's holding a beer. He'd been drinking all day that day and had a really, 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 really bad moment of despair in which he made a very permanent decision that has now robbed each and every one of us of the joy of his life. The joy of being around him, the joy of being with him every day. I've checked my phone numerous times, wishing I had missed a call from him that night, but I didn't. Nobody did. The same impulsiveness with which Alexander acted his whole entire life, from birth till death, that impulsiveness at the end is what gave us 22 years and a path to honor. We are going to miss him every single day, every moment of every day. Considering what he has meant to each and every one of us individually, those beautiful friendships to be respected, those beautiful, beautiful relationships to be honored. We will remember Alexander like the most beautiful love note tucked in our back pocket with the lesson of life and of breath upon it. To never give up, to know that tomorrow is going to be a totally different day. And to know that the most sensitive of spirits and the most sweetest of hearts and the most wonderful of people who give the most love and give the most attention and give the most devotion, those are the people like Alexander who deserve to be honored and cherished and treasured while they are here. Do not squander your time. Do not squander your love. You want to remember with love the person who ran around spouting philosophy far beyond the 22 years that you'd ever imagine he'd have the wisdom to share with you from? Do not stumble through a bad day. Do not allow yourself to handle what you are struggling with alone. Reach out. It isn't ever a shameful thing to reach out. When you need a hand, there is always someone to grab yours. We talk about Alexander with joy and with jubilation and with honor and respect for who he was in his life. And there will never be an adjustment of that because our individual experiences with him left us feeling like his death brought the fires of Pompeii upon us all of a sudden, without notice, without warning. And years and years and years later, what we will understand is this and this and this and this. Alexander has left an impact upon us of art and music and life and appreciation and gratitude and strength. We ask that you lift a prayer this evening. And in that prayer, you allow your love for Alexander to pour forth. As you pray, Allow every bit of that to be a light in your darkness. And as you extinguish your candles this evening, let it be in love and in honor and in memory of a beautiful soul and a beautiful life. There will be a separate post from this with a YouTube video address link to be posted. Alexander has received some beautiful farewell messages that will be included on that YouTube channel, as well as a copy of a beautiful photo montage of his life. So we'll invite you to have a look at an evergreen tribute to Alexander. With COVID and not being allowed to get together in person, we will plan something as a celebration in regards to Alexander's wonderful life and the celebration of our love for him, and that will be announced in the future. We thank you for being a part of our farewell message to Alexander. There is nothing that we could say that we wouldn't want to add another 1,000 words to make it bigger and better and more loving and more amazing, because that's what Alexander was. He was radiant and he was light and he was sparkles. He was everything, everything in regards to the sparkly stardust that you expect when you consider what a soul is made up of. So tonight, we ask that you please spend the rest of your evening eating your favorite ice cream and grooving to your David Bowie song of choice. Alexander loved music, and we carry on his legacy, listening to tunes and paying attention to everything that's going to feel good about our love for Alexander. And in the moments of despair that we are hurting the most, it's really, really, really important that we take the time to feel the light and feel the love. We know, we know that it's a preciousness and a sacredness. So carry that preciousness and carry that sacredness. In loving honor of Alexander, our family is very grateful that you have joined us. We will continue to share our love for Alex. There's so much that we would like to say and we'd like to do, but we stand in solidarity and we stand in love and we stand in honor of this beautiful life for this beautiful man whom we were all very, very blessed to know. We ask at this time that all of you bow your heads. And in typical Alexander style, we ask you to pray to the deity of your choice. And as Alexander would say, that if you don't have a deity to choose, you can choose all of them. Dear Heavenly Fathers and Heavenly Mothers, dear grandmothers and grandfathers, and all ancestors who have gone before us, we are grateful for your embrace of Alexander James Lemmer. We thank you for taking him into your loving arms. We are grateful for every moment of our lives with him, and we hold nothing but gratitude and love in our space for Alexander. We lift his spirit in peace. We lift Alexander's spirit in white light. We know that his stardust was destined for greatness, and so be it. Heavenly Fathers and Heavenly Mothers, we ask you to please hold tight to our Alexander. Let his spirit be whole, and let his journey be one of absolute joy and perfection. Dear Jesus and God, we ask you to please hold our brother tight. Hold his hand and love on him. Fill him with your light. We reach out to all whom Alexander held dear. Kuan Yin, mercy, Buddha's Buddha's everything. We honor Alexander for who he is and what his spirit is to each and every one of us. Alexander showed love and acceptance and kindness, no matter who you were along the way. So as you go about the rest of your life without Alexander's presence here, we ask you to keep that note tucked in your back pocket with this life lesson that life is precious and it's to be lived with kindness every step along the way. We lift Alexander up in so much love, and we love you. Thank you for honoring Alexander with us. Thank you for being a part of our family and our tribe. We love you, and we love Alexander in his honor. Thank you very much. Stay lifted.